NFL team preview. We got the New York Giants. The G-Men finished last season with a 14-5 against the spread record, which was the best in the NFL. And I don't want to use the word lucky to describe the Giants last season because I think head coach Brian Daboll is that good and can be pointed at as the difference maker in a lot of games. But so much went the Giants' way last season for them to finish 9-7. I've talked a lot in these previews about how small the difference is between winning and losing in single-score games and how there's a lot of luck and randomness involved in winning close games. Giants were really good in close games, going 8-4-1 in games decided by one touchdown or less. Giants were especially good late in games. They were the second-best team in the fourth quarter for wins added over expectation, behind only the Vikings. But in the first three quarters combined, they had the third worst rank in wins above expectation. So in other words, they were horrible in the first three quarters, but really, really good in the fourth quarter. And based on the projected win probability in the fourth quarter of all the Giants games, they were much closer to a 7-win team than a 9-win team. 5 of their wins came in games they were outgained on yards per play basis, which is the highest among all playoff teams. Giants ranked 22nd in net yards per play and 18th in net expected points added, and this was against an easier than league average schedule. Those numbers also don't take into consideration the Giants benefited from getting Cooper Rush at QB versus Dallas instead of Dak, and then Nick Foles against the Colts, or getting the Lions in cold weather at home. Basically, it's just non-adjusted. Their schedule this season is much harder. They will have the 9th most difficult schedule. The fact their division is stacked and they have to play 4 games versus Dallas and Philly is tough, but they have to face San Fran, Buffalo, Miami, and the Jets outside of their division. They only play 8 home games, but one of them is versus the Jets, so they don't gain home field advantage there. It's hard to imagine they get as fortunate this year as last year, and even if they do, I don't think they'll win as many late games while trailing late in games as they did last year, just natural regression. Defense was a big concern last year for the G-Men, partly to blame due to injury, where they ranked 3rd in adjusted games lost due to injury on defense. This led to the Giants being one of the worst units in the league, 28th in EPA per play allowed against the 6th easiest schedule of opposing offenses. They were the only they were the only defense to not hold an opposing offense to a game below expected points added expectation last year, or in the bottom 20th percentile. Their early down defense was worst in the league, ranking 32nd, but again, great coaching from DC Wink Martindale and his ability to scheme up pressures had them ranked 7th best on late down defense. Their defense also forced the highest fumble rate in the league on 3rd and 4th downs. I know this preview so far has been pretty negative, but for a team to make the playoffs, they must have done something right, and they did. It happened to be in areas that are very closely correlated to winning games, and that's red zone efficiency and turnovers. Giants were 5th best in red zone touchdown percentage after finishing the previous 2 seasons dead last. That's what head coach Brian Daboll brings. Daboll used Daniel Jones' mobility perfectly in scoring areas. Jones had a 58% success rate, 6 rushing TDs, and threw only 1 INT on 50 attempts inside scoring territory. Giants offense also ranked number 1 in the NFL in lowest percentage of bad drives ended in the red zone. Only 4% of their drives that reached the red zone ended in a turnover, loss of downs, or missed field goal, which is pretty impressive. Daniel Jones also had the lowest interception rate of any QB last year, and as a team, the Giants had the lowest EPA loss due to turnovers. That alone can be a point to most of their success. In 2021, the New York Giants finished the season 32nd, dead last in DVOA, which is an all-inclusive metric by Football Outsider. Last season, they ranked 10th, which is obviously a huge leap from 32nd. Will they be able to sustain that ranking, especially when you look how the defense finished last season, 29th in DVOA, and how much more difficult their schedule is this season. The G-Men have top-tier talent, no question. Probably the best head coach, offensive coordinator, play-calling, game manager duo in the league. Head coach Brian Daboll is just so good with this team from both a motivational and game plan standpoint, but a big concern has to be the lack of depth. The drop-off is just so big from the first string to backups, not just in talent, but with execution. Now, one aspect I'll be looking to bet on with the Giants in games is with Danny Dimes, rushing props. think we see Jones rush more this season. He carried the ball 10 or more times in 4 of his final 7 games last season, including the playoffs, for an average of 9.1 carries per game in that stretch. Think that continues. If you made it this far, I appreciate you guys watching. Got 9 NFL team previews remaining. Until next time, hope you crush your bets.